Hello, this is Black Country Blokes chewing the fat.
Listen.
I've been hearing a lot lately about men don't talk, but in my experience, men do talk, just people aren't listening. So it's going to be me and a group of blokes discussing our struggles and victories through life. Warning, there may be some bad language, so apologies to all the moms, especially my own. Let's get going.
Listen.
Abinya, this is the Black Country Blokes chewing the fat with me, Kev Dillon, Lee Cadman, and today we're joined by Tom Garratt. Now today we're going to be talking about something that so many people go through, but not many of us blokes talk about. It's about losing a child, be it in pregnancy or stillbirth, and a lot of the attention goes on to women, and possibly rightly so. I mean, they've created this being in their body, but they often forget about the dad who's also created a child. And I think sometimes when the thought of this wonderful child going to be the apple of our eye, and that's taken away, they forget it hurts us blokes too. So thank you, Tom, for coming on, bruv.
No, that's
And
not a
if you'd
problem,
like, and if you'd like to tell us about the circumstance, please.
mate. Yeah, so just probably about 3 years ago now, just 2017. Yeah, obviously my other half, she gave birth at 23 weeks. Obviously it was a very, very difficult thing for both of us, really. I mean, sort of, people themselves when you find that you're having a baby, just sort of, going to like mother things like that, mentally preparing yourself for it, and obviously to not sort of come home with the baby afterwards, so it's a hard thing. And my missus, she was like a soldier for it. I got to take my hat off to her because I think she held it probably together more than I did, which should be the other way around really. But that was a very difficult thing for both of us, and it still affects us in ways now, really.
Of course, it's going to, and it's one of those things. It stays with you, I imagine, because that fear of loss. And you said because you had to give birth, so going through all the pain for the pair of you of going through the actual delivery, then not
Yeah,
having the end result.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, that was that the hardest thing, especially like sort of being in the hospital same room as where she sort of gave birth, and then you could still hear and see other children being sort of born, going past with balloons and things like that. It was, looking back on it, it takes a while to process things like that, I think, really. And I think even now, it hurts really. I think and so it's just perfectly normal. I think I've realised that definitely myself over the last sort of 2 or 3 years. And like you say, when just stupid things like when you see kids outside, playing, running around, it does come back to you, really.
Of course, it does. Of course. And did they offer you any counselling at the time?
Um, Not really. No, I mean there was a lot of sort of a lot going on obviously at the time, and there was a few sort of leaflets I was given. But I mean I've sort of been through a bit of counselling prior to that time anyway. So I think after that happened, I just thought, what's the point anymore? Just kind of started smoking a lot of drugs, things like that, and just got wrapped up in it all, really.
I think that's what most of us do, though, isn't it? When we come into crisis, we fall back on habits that have got us through previous things.
Definitely, yeah. And I think that's what it was, really. It was, which, like I say, sorry, with the counselling thing you were saying, and I did try a couple more sessions of that, and I think it was because it was so soon happening. It's just like, I don't want to be in it. I don't want to be people asking me these questions, and it just takes just time, really, I suppose.
I think a lot of things in counselling, not all counselling, but a lot of ways they do is they make you relive the trauma and over instead of, I don't know, finding ways to carry on with the rest of your life instead of keep going for the thing that's made you bad in the first place.
Yeah, definitely. And I've sort of issues with my mum from when I was younger, and I don't see much of her anymore. Um, and I think after going through that as well, that sort of brought a lot of those sort of memories back, and it's a tough thing, really. But with like I say, in regards to counselling, it's like you say, it's not for everyone, really. I think I couldn't really tell you $1 million answer to that and tell you what is the answer instead of counselling. But for me personally, it didn't seem to help that much anyway.
What was your medicine? What made you start feeling better?
I think probably just talking about it, really. I think, through all the negatives that came out of what happened, I think, I always remember my dad saying to me in the hospital after it happened, he was like, most people would probably split up now after this. And I think even, my partner said it to me as well. She said, most people would end up splitting up. And I've heard a lot of sort of blokes who I come to contact with, at work. And I think a lot of people do split up after things like, it's a big thing. And I think the positive I take out of it is, we're still together now, we're still living together, and I think when the time's right, the time will be right again.
Is there anything you want to try and with, Lee?
Yeah, well, number one, thanks for coming on, Tom. We only got talking because I use Tom's Barbers where he works, and I think you saw my T-shirt or asked me what I was doing today, and I said we was doing this podcast with Kev. And but to me, your story is so important to tell because there's so many other blokes who are experiencing it currently or been there, and you're right in what you're saying. Counselling might not be the answer for these people. Yeah. It might be, but it might not be. But you have to find what is the right thing. If you're not comfortable with counselling, if you're not comfortable doing that, then don't feel like you have to do it for the sake of it. Yeah, and I think Kev mentioned that sometimes it's just too soon to talk, isn't it? It's too soon. It might be that the counsellor is absolutely fine, but it's just too raw for you at that point to be reliving it. And sometimes you just have to take a step back. It could be a couple of years, it could be a year, and then start talking about it when you're ready. But I think there definitely needs to be more in place after speaking with you that after the event, because you mentioned to me that basically, well, you've just mentioned again that basically you were still in a hospital where you could hear babies crying and kind of the world going on around you after you had this devastation. And I know you've done some work, haven't you, to try and facilitate a room for that to happen in?
Look, first of all, like you say, there's not a lot sort of going on afterwards, in terms of aftercare. And I mean, first of all, I don't want to sort of, there's probably a lot of people who have had sort of, bad things happen to them in hospitals, and so I don't want to sound like, I'm the only person with that story. But I think in terms of, like you say, when it happened, I think they could have possibly, moved us around a little bit, or, I do think something could have happened there. Just in terms of aftercare, really, as well. I mean, I don't even think, thinking back now, I don't even think there was a phone call, to her after it happened from the hospital or anything like that. Obviously, we did go back to the hospital sort of about a couple of months later, but I just felt like, the whole situation, it probably left us very isolated when family members were trying to obviously make it better. But like you say, when you take a step back, you don't want that kind of thing sometimes. But yeah, in terms of the raising money, at the time I was sort of working in an office, and it was sort of a very big office as well. So I sent out an email to one of the guys, and they sort of shared it round, and ended up doing the Wolverhampton half marathon. I think that was probably September 2017. And I think we raised, I think it was just over £1,000 we raised. And that was down to for a charity called SANS, which is a charity for stillbirths and neonatal deaths, that kind of thing. It's something that I don't think too many people are aware of. That was sort of one of the reasons why I wanted to come on here, really, just to raise some awareness for SANS and what they do in terms of aftercare and support. I think I mentioned to you that they do 11-a-side. They started an 11-a-side football team, and it was for blokes who'd been through something very similar. I can't remember where the area was. I think it might have been in London. And now that they're a really good team, playing every week, and obviously, I think, like you say, with counselling not helping, that probably helps a lot of people on that side of it, going to play football every week with the mates rather than just sitting in a room with someone you've never met before. So,
Well, when you're a barber, that's where a lot of you being a barber. I bet you hear loads of people's problems, don't you? That's when you're in the barber seat, you're the most important person in the room, and you will talk about your holidays, what gets you down. So,
yeah,
like when you go and have your trims, like when you come to the gym,
yeah,
only 50% of what I do is coach people. The other bit is listen to the problems.
yeah,
That's why I
yeah,
think like barbers and gyms are so vital, especially to us blokes who don't open up unless we've had a couple of cans or a couple of bags or
yeah,
something.
yeah.
But I think when you've got that person to talk freely to, I think we're not just that one thing, are we? Many other things.
No, definitely. I'm, to be honest, glad you've said that as well. In regards to the gyms being like barbers, as in, I think I've definitely noticed myself since this after the first lockdown. I think there's a lot more people now who starting to say, "Oh, felt a bit anxious or I felt a bit down," or obviously it's understandable with what's going on at the minute anyway, but that's just making obviously things a lot worse for people's mental health. But like you say, we're listening to that many different problems, and that's why I wanted to come on here today. Really, was because it's just something that a lot more blokes need to be comfortable talking about this kind of thing. Like you say, it's especially in my job, it's the weather's cold, it's raining outside, or going to Spain this week, or and it actually. I feel better at the end of the day when I know I've come away speaking to people, and we've opened up to each other. I don't think there's like you say, there's not enough of that going on, is there really?
And I think like in your job, like the Wolves have lost or whatever, and you start talking about the weather. The weather's a bit shitty. The next thing you know, you're going, well, I have actually been a bit down, and then before you know it, you're having a conversation about something important.
Yeah, yeah. It's like you say, just what Lee was saying before. I think I just the first thing I asked him was, "What are you doing tonight?" or something like that. And he said, "Doing a podcast." And here we are. It's just you don't know where these things can lead to. And I think the one thing what I've learned definitely a lot in the last couple of years is, whatever we're feeling, and at the time, feels like you're the only person in the world going through it. That's definitely not true at all, because there's so many different people going through different things, and you just don't know, dear, until you sort of start talking.
But that's why I think it's important. Brave people like yourself come on and talk. So then that opens up the door. Because next time, what's the name of your barbers?
It's trims, Stourbridge.
So next time someone goes in there, you never know. They might be there going, I've been through that. And you can be a wall to lean on for each other, can't you?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And like I say, for me personally, anyway, definitely some growing up and getting a bit older and stuff. I think I'll come away at the end of the day, and I feel better for if someone's opened up to me, and I'm not naming any names or anything, but I know that I've got a customer who lost a wife to cancer. Probably I think it was like the end of last year, and I think that was one of the first moments really where I'd spoke to someone and listening to his story, and that I went home, I was thinking about it, and I think it's better to know that other people are going through these things as well, better than just being in your own mind thinking about it.
That's a problem sometimes, isn't it, Tom? You can get lost in your own thoughts, and sometimes you just have to look further afield and realise that you're not the only one who's been there and done it, and that does offer a bit of comfort sometimes.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. It's like you say, it just takes time, really. As bad as everything seems, it's like anything in life. I always think where as bad as it seems at the time, a week, a month, a year later, you just it doesn't seem so bad. Even not that it isn't bad, but you can always get around things and find the answers.
It's just finding a way to deal with it, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And again, just things like exercising. I find not that I do it enough anymore, but just the times where I've got up in the morning and gone for a run, or gone to the gym before work, you do feel brilliant for it. And I think once you're in that routine and you're doing it, and you feel a lot better for it. And I think, to be honest, even things like listening to music, going to the gym, and you think these things when you hear them off people at the time, you think this isn't going to help a lot really, but just little things like that in the morning, it puts such a buzz onto your day, and puts you in a better frame of mind.
I think if I've got the name of the charities right, Acorns. I think they do a lot for this. And my friend lost his little boy. It's Brody, something, the Brody Trust. So
Yeah,
if we can find it, we'll put it in the show notes.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
But I
that's
think
fine.
having people like yourself come on and talking, I think it is remarkable because the blokes will just either go straight back to work or they will drink heavily, get off the nut. And what we should be doing is getting together in a community and just not saying it'll be all right, because it won't be all right. You've lost something so special, but it's learning how you can then process it better.
Yeah. I agree with that totally. It's just a case of I think I remember going to, I think it was at the doctor's a couple of years ago, and I was just talking to the doctor about it, and I think he just showed me this cycle, and it was going through all the different stages after grief, and a lot of people don't understand. I mean, I didn't understand at the time what grief was. I didn't even know I was going through grief, but there's actually like sort of five stages in grief, and I can't remember them all off the top of my head now, but there's a part so where one's anger, sort of sadness and different ones, and it like I say, it does take a lot of time really to process that and go through that cycle really.
And I think it's one of those things that at the time you want to rush through it, but it's something that has to take its time. And one day you're fine, next day you're in a terrible place again. But we all grieve differently, don't we? But we've got to find your medicine. You've got to find your own medicine.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's like, sometimes like you say, I can go, sort of the whole day not even thinking about it, and then just going through some photos on my phone or something, and looking at when she was born and stuff, and just little things like that really, just sets it back off again. You've just got to try and just keep positive really, aren't you, and just keep going on, like you say, talk about it. I can openly talk to it about with my partner anyway. We do have conversations about it, and she has days where she thinks about her being born, and I have my days, but I think like you say, you've just got to just give things time, and just it will get better.
That's a process in itself, isn't it, Tom? Getting used to being able to talk with your partner. I think I told you before, I've got a disabled daughter, and me and my wife, she's my girl's been through hell and back in hospitals and whatever else. And me and my wife would never really talk about it. You get over that period, that disaster, that hospital visit or whatever, and then you just kind of want to forget about it and move on. But I think it's important to be able to talk. It might not again, it might not be straight away, but you've got to be able to look back and go, because I found myself the same. I'll go through my phone of when she was on life support and stuff like that, and I literally couldn't look at the pictures for years. I couldn't look at the pictures. I didn't want to see them. Didn't want to. But over time, that gradually gets easier, and I think it's important that you do look back. It also gives you, with things like that, it gives you a look of how far she's come now as well. It's not quite the same experience in your sense, but I think opening up to your partner is very important in it.
Yeah, I mean, like when you was on about the photos, then it was, I remember at the time, just after it happened, I didn't see too much of her when it actually happened. But a few hours later, one of the midwives come around and sort of said, "Do you want to come and have a look at her?" And I remember going in there with my stepmom, and she said what you've just said. Then basically, she was like, I didn't really want to go in there, and she was like, if you don't take a picture now, you're never going to have anything to look back on. And I'm just glad that she did, really.
Yeah. I can imagine that's a very hard room to walk into.
Yeah, definitely, mate. It's, probably one of the definitely the worst thing I've ever done, or worst place I've ever been. It was just not a nice experience at all, really. But on the other hand, looking back at it now, I'm just so glad that I did go in there, if that makes sense.
See, to me, what you've said there is probably one of the most vital things of the conversation, because I think a lot of blokes are going to be in that position where going, I don't want to walk through that door for obvious reasons. I don't want to see this. But you saying, actually, at the time, it is horrible. But I think you're saying to me that you're glad you actually went through and did it and took that moment with your daughter.
Yeah, definitely. And that's something, like you said, speaking about with your partners and stuff. I've said to her, I'm glad that I did do it, and obviously, she's definitely more than the same. Really, she was glad that she did it. But I think just going back to what you said before as well about people not talking to the partners as well, which is if you are living with your partner at home, and definitely in my job, I hear a lot of almost people kind of against the partner sometimes in terms of if you just say, oh, can we have a chat, or there is someone there, or even if it's your mate, someone will have a chat with you about it.
What was your family like? Your dad and your stepmom, were they very supportive?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think in midst of all this, looking back on it now, it's definitely. I mean, I've always sort of got on with my dad, but just being a little bit of a knob at times when I was younger, and messing around and not realising later on in life things that he'd been telling me to do for years that I didn't do.
We've all been there.
Yeah. But I think it definitely brought us closer together. Really, like I've definitely had conversations with him since that happened. That things I didn't know, or things we'd been through, and like you say, it brings you closer together. Really.
Well, I think that's remarkable. We won't have it too long today. And is there anything that you'd like to say, Tom? I'm going to ask you in a moment to come up with a quote. But before we go into the quote, is there anything you'd like to just say to everyone out there listening to this?
I think more than anything, not just to do with sort of my subject or story, just in general, just sort of be nice to each other, just talk to each other, ask people, how are you doing, ask what they're up to, because it. I think nowadays as well, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to work out people's emotions as well. I mean, if you can, see someone and, look at them, just ask them how they're doing, or, ask if they're all right, because like you say, we do need to talk more about just things in general, really.
Lee, is there anything you'd like to say before?
No, just thank you for coming on. I know it's been probably a tough experience. It's not me and Kev have been doing this podcast over a year now, and it's not the easiest thing to do when you've not done anything like it before, as me and Kev experienced to begin with, and especially not easy to do when you're talking about things that are emotional, So thank you for coming on, Tom. Very brave.
No problem at all. Honestly, thanks for having me.
And as I'm going to seem like a bit of a bastard now after how brave you've been, but I always put people on the spot. Have you got any quotes or sayings that have helped you get through tough times?
I've got to be honest, mate, I haven't really. I know I've been put on the spot a bit there.
That's usual.
I guess be kind, really, if I can, anything, yeah.
Be kind, I think that's the best quote that anyone could say. It's the easiest thing to do. So, once again, brother, thank you ever so much for coming on.
No problem, mate. Thank you.
So, till we see each other next time, take care of yourselves and each other. Ta-ra a bit.
Listen.
And that's a wrap for another show. But if there are any comments or messages that you would like us to read out for our next podcast, please be in touch. There are also lots of different organisations at the bottom of this page, and hopefully they can help you or someone you care about. Please share this to spread the word. Until we talk next time, ta-ra a bit.
Listen.